The town of Amori was not big, but it was full of life. Tucked away between green hills and winding footpaths, the village moved at its own quiet pace. Children played in dusty corners, women walked to the stream with plastic buckets, and old men sat under mango trees, telling stories that stretched like the Harmattan breeze. In the heart of Amori, right beside the old post office, stood a small wooden shop with faded red paint and a rusted zinc roof. The sign above read, "Jide's Mini Mart." It wasn't much, just a narrow space with shelves of cabin biscuits, sachet water, tins of milk, sugar, and washing soap. But the owner, Jide, made it feel like the center of the world. Every morning, before the sun fully rose, Jide swept the dusty floor of his shop with a short broom. He wiped down the glass counter, arranged the loaves of bread in neat rows, and restocked sweets for the schoolchildren who would come skipping in later. Then, with a gentle smile and soft "good morning," he'd open his doors and start the day. To the people of Amori, Jide was just another hard-working young man trying to make ends meet. He was quiet, respectful, and always ready to help someone carry a bag of rice or find exact change. The widows liked him, the children loved him, but no one really knew who he was. Because Jide had a secret. Back in Lagos, far from the dusty streets of Amori, Jide's father was a powerful man, a billionaire. He owned construction firms, transport lines, hotels, and even a stake in an oil company. People in the city feared and respected him. His name opened doors in government offices and boardrooms. But none of that noise reached Amori. Jide was his only son, the heir to everything. Yet here he was, selling sachet tomatoes and sugar cubes in a tiny shop. This was not punishment. It was a choice. Before his father died, he had called Jide to his hospital bed and whispered words that stuck like glue to his heart. "My son, money will always attract people, but real love is rare. Find a woman who loves you with nothing in your hand. Then you will know peace." Jide nodded that day and made a promise to himself. He would not choose a wife from flashing lights or loud city parties. He would go where life was simple, where hearts were still honest. So he left Lagos quietly. With little more than a backpack, he came to Amori and used some pocket money to open the small provision shop. He didn't bring his father's cars or designer clothes. He left behind the mansion, the guards, and even his real name on legal papers. In Amori, he was just Jide, the shopkeeper. Some people thought he was odd. He didn't gossip like the others. He didn't chase women or drink palm wine late into the night. He worked, he helped, he smiled, and he minded his business. But what most people didn't see was how observant he was. Jide noticed the small things. How Mama Ifeoma always added extra pepper to her beans. How little Abuka only buys sweets on Fridays. And how the village chief's wife always argued over change. He studied human behavior, not with books, but with his eyes and ears. He had one goal: find a woman who could love him without knowing who he truly was. Every time he swept the shop, every time he tied a nylon of groundnut or arranged loaves of agaja bread, he reminded himself, this is part of the test. Some days it was hard. He missed the air conditioning of his father's house. He missed having fast internet and real toothpaste that didn't smell like chalk. But each time doubt crept in, he remembered his father's eyes. Tired, wise, and full of hope. And so he stayed. There was a little room at the back of the shop where he lived. A mattress on the floor, a small table, and a lantern were all he had. At night, he wrote in a notebook. He wrote about the people he met, the lessons he learned, and the dreams he still carried in his chest. He didn't know how long it would take, but he believed that one day a woman would walk into his life. Not because of what he owned, but because of who he was. Every time he swept the shop, every time he tied a nylon of ground up or arranged loaves of agaja bread, he reminded himself, this is part of the test. Some days it was hard. He missed the air conditioning of his father's house. He missed having fast internet and real toothpaste that didn't smell like chalk. But each time doubt crept in, he remembered his father's eyes, tired, wise, and full of hope. And so he stayed. There was a little room at the back of the shop where he lived. A mattress on the... It was a warm Tuesday morning in Amori. The sun had climbed high already, and the scent of fried akara filled the air. Jide was at his shop as usual, arranging cartons of noodles and wiping dust off the counter. The shop was quiet, except for the soft hum of his small rechargeable fan. He had just refilled the biscuit tray when the door creaked open. She stepped in. Jide looked up, and time slowed down for a moment. The woman standing at the entrance was tall and graceful. She wore a red and gold Ankara gown that hugged her figure, and her skin glowed like someone who used the finest body lotion. A black handbag rested on her arm, and her dark glasses made her look like someone straight out of a magazine. She smelled of jasmine and rosewater. The scent filled the small shop in seconds. Jide blinked. He had never seen her before. "Good morning," she said, her voice smooth and confident. "Good morning," Jide replied with a small smile. "Welcome." She glanced at the shelves briefly. "Do you have any body cream, something with shea butter?" "Yes, I do," Jide answered quickly, turning to the back shelf. He picked out a jar and brought it to the counter. "This one is good. My aunties use it a lot." She took off her sunglasses, revealing a pair of sharp, curious eyes. She opened the jar, sniffed it lightly, then nodded. "I'll take it, and also a bar of soap." Jide handed her the soap and said, "That will be 1,250 naira." She brought out 1,300 naira from her bag and handed it to him. "You can keep the change," she added. Jide smiled politely and shook his head. "No need. Please take a sweet or chewing gum for the extra." She raised a brow. "You're honest," she said, taking a mint sweet from the counter. "Not every shopkeeper would return change like this." "I believe small things matter," he replied. There was a pause. She stared at him for a second longer, then gave a half smile. "Thank you," she said, picking up her items. "You're welcome," Jide replied. "Hope to see you again." She didn't answer, but she gave a small wave as she walked out of the shop. Jide stood there for a few moments, staring at the door. The shop suddenly felt too quiet. He didn't even know her name. But from that moment, he knew something inside him had shifted. That evening, as he closed his shop and swept the floor, he couldn't get her out of his head. He replayed the moment again and again, the way she spoke, the way she smiled, the way she raised her brow when he refused to keep the change. The next day, Jide found himself checking the street more often than usual. Each time someone passed by in red, his heart jumped, hoping it was her again. But she didn't come. Not on Wednesday. Not on Thursday. Then on Friday afternoon, just as he was restocking milk on the shelf, the door creaked again. She entered. This time she wore a sky blue blouse and a long black skirt. Her hair was packed neatly, and her gold earrings swung lightly as she walked in. "Good afternoon," she said. Jide tried to act normal, but his smile stretched wider than usual. "Good afternoon. It's nice to see you again." She glanced at the shelf. "I need lotion and toothpaste." As Jide brought the items, he cleared his throat gently. "I didn't catch your name the other day." She looked at him, then said, "Ada." "Nice name," Jide said. "I'm Jide." "I know. Your shop name gave you away." They both laughed a little. When she was about to leave, she paused. "You always keep your shop this clean?" "I try. My mom taught me to keep things tidy. She used to say, even if you're selling groundnut, do it with pride." Ada nodded, as if the words touched something inside her. "Well, thank you, Jide," she said softly. "You're welcome any time, Ada," he replied. And just like that, she left again. From then on, Ada began to show up more often.
sometimes to buy small things, sometimes just to greet him. She would stand by the door, arms folded, looking around the shop. Jide always offered her water or sweets. Their conversations grew longer, and she began to open up more. One afternoon, she told him, "My mom used to be a headmistress. She's very strict. That's why I act serious sometimes." Jide laughed gently. "You don't scare me. I was raised by a strict mother too. We would get koboko just for spilling gari." Ada laughed out loud. Her laughter was warm, real, and in that moment, Jide felt something stirred deep in his chest. He didn't know if it was love yet, but it was something strong, something good. But while Jide's feelings were growing, Ada's heart was still unsure. She liked Jide's honesty, his peaceful nature, his gentle tone. But a small voice inside her kept whispering, "He's just a shopkeeper." Still, she continued to visit. And Jide continued.
By the third week, it was no longer strange to see Ada at Jide's mini-mart. Sometimes she came to buy real things, like soap, cornflakes, or body cream. Other times, she just came to stand and talk. She liked to lean against the wooden frame of the door with her arms crossed, watching people pass. Jide always welcomed her with a calm smile. Even though their conversations were short, they meant a lot to Jide. He had not told her how he felt. He didn't want to rush. He believed love should grow quietly, like a plant, watered with small, kind moments. So he did what he knew best. He observed, he listened, and he served with a quiet heart. One evening, Ada came to the shop looking sad. She barely said a word. When she asked for a bottle of cold water, Jide gave it to her for free. "You look tired," he said softly. She sighed. "My mom hasn't been feeling well. She coughed all night, and the medicine isn't working." Jide nodded slowly, then went to the back room. When he returned, he handed her a small nylon bag. "What's this?" Ada asked. "Ginger tea and honey," he said. "They helped my mother a lot. Try it." Ada looked at the bag, then at Jide. Her lips parted, but no words came out. For the first time, she saw him differently, not just as a shop owner, but as someone thoughtful, someone kind. "Thank you," she said, her voice low. "It's nothing," Jide replied. "I hope she feels better soon." That night, Ada used the tea and gave some to her mother. The older woman said it was the first time her throat had felt warm in days. The next afternoon, Ada returned to the shop. "My mom says thank you," she said. Jide smiled. "I'm glad she's better." From then on, something changed between them. Ada no longer stood far away when she talked. She came closer. She leaned on the counter. She even helped him arrange biscuits once, laughing when a whole pack fell and scattered across the floor. Still, Ada kept her guard up. One day, as she walked home with her best friend Chioma, they talked about Jide. "I saw you smiling at that shopkeeper again," Chioma teased. Ada shrugged. "He's kind." "Kind doesn't buy you an iPhone," Chioma replied. "Babe, shine your eyes. That guy sells cabin biscuits. What kind of future can he offer you?" Ada didn't answer. She just kept walking, her face unreadable. Inside, her heart was split in two. She liked talking to Jide. He was simple, but warm, peaceful. When she stood near him, she felt safe. But at the same time, he didn't talk about big dreams. He didn't wear fine clothes. He never mentioned Lagos or traveling abroad. He was too quiet. Still, Jide continued to find small ways to show his care. When heavy rain spoiled the ground in front of Ada's house, he came with sand and stones to help level it. When her slippers tore in front of the shop, he quietly brought out glue and fixed it while she laughed. When she spoke about her dream of owning a beauty salon one day, he listened with his full attention. "I know someone who can help you get cheap mirrors," Jide said. "When you're ready, let me know." Ada looked at him, surprised. "You really think I can start it?" she asked. "Why not?" Jide replied. "You already carry yourself like a boss." Ada smiled. It felt good to be seen like that. Over time, the people in the village noticed their closeness. Some approved, others did not.
Mama Ebele, who sold vegetables near the shop, told Jide one morning, "That Ada girl is too shiny. You better not put your heart where your hand can't reach." Jide only smiled. He knew people wouldn't understand. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was simply being real. And with every visit, every short laugh, every shared thought, his feelings grew stronger. He began to imagine what life would look like with her. Not in a palace, not in a mansion, just in a small home with peace and laughter. One evening, as he sat in the back room of the shop, he opened his small metal box and brought out his mother's old jewelry pouch. Inside were faded beads and broken earrings. Carefully, he picked out some of the beads and began to thread them into a bracelet. It wasn't gold. It wasn't expensive. But it carried his mother's memory and his hope. He worked on it late into the night, shaping it with love and care. By the time he finished, he knew what he had to do. He had waited long enough. It was time to ask Ada a simple question, not with diamonds, but with honesty. And he knew the perfect day to do it, her birthday. What he didn't know was that someone else had already entered Ada's world. Someone louder, flashier, with bright perfume and a shiny red car. And that man was about to turn everything upside down.
Amori had never seen a car that red. It was a bright Saturday morning, and market women were setting up their stalls. Chickens ran across the road, children chased each other with mangoes, and the air smelled of roasted corn. Then came the noise, vroom! Heads turned, mouths dropped open. A shiny red SUV rolled slowly into the village square. Its tires were big, the windows were dark. Music played from inside, one of those loud city songs with heavy beats. The car parked near the big tree beside the church, and the engine went silent. Then the door opened. A man stepped out. He wore a white t-shirt tucked into dark jeans and a gold chain that shone in the sun. His sunglasses looked expensive. His perfume reached people before his words did. He walked like someone who owned the road. His name was Chuka. No one knew who invited him, but the rumors started fast. They say he's the son of a hotel owner in Enugu. He came for business. No, I heard he's looking for a wife. Within an hour, Chuka became the center of every conversation in Amori. And it didn't take long for Ada to meet him. She had gone to the market with Chioma to buy ingredients for her birthday dinner. As they walked past the SUV, Chuka stepped out again, this time with a new wristwatch and a wide smile. "Excuse me," he said, "are you from here?" Ada turned slowly, curious. "Yes," she answered. "You don't look like someone from a small village," Chuka said, flashing his teeth. "You look like someone who belongs in a magazine." Chioma giggled. Ada smiled a little. "Thank you." "I'm Chuka," he said, offering his hand, "from Enugu. I'm here for some business, and maybe to find a beautiful reason to stay longer." Ada raised an eyebrow, but shook his hand. "I'm Ada." From that moment, everything began to shift. Chuka made his interest clear. He started visiting the market more often. He sent Ada airtime, bought her takeaway food from a nearby town, and even offered to take her and Chioma to a weekend party in Enugu. Within days, Ada's phone buzzed constantly, with messages, voice notes, and compliments. And Jida noticed. From across the road inside his small shop, Jida watched it all. He saw the red car. He saw Ada laughing louder, dressing fancier, walking past his shop without stopping. His heart felt heavy. He had just finished making the bracelet for her birthday. He had planned to give it to her under the mango tree. He had imagined her face lighting up. He had even practiced what to say. But now it felt like someone had drawn a curtain between them. Still, Jida didn't give up.
That evening, he sent Ada a small note through her younger cousin with a piece of cake he had bought from Mama Peace's bakery. The note read, "I know the world is full of noise right now, but I hope you still remember the quiet places. I'll be waiting under the mango tree tomorrow. Happy birthday, Ada. Jida." Ada received the note. She read it twice. She smiled, but not the kind of smile Jida had dreamed of. When Chioma saw the note, she hissed. "This one again? Look, Ada, you can't compare sweet words and biscuits to red cars and Enugu parties. Think well, one can change your life. The other, he'll still be selling Milo in 10 years. Ada nodded slowly. She knew Chioma had a point. But something inside her still felt drawn to Jida. He was kind. He had been there before Chuka arrived. He had helped her mother. He had believed in her dream to open a salon. But he wasn't rich. He didn't wear gold. He didn't speak about Lagos or Dubai. He was just Jida. The next morning, Ada dressed up for her birthday. She wore a new pink dress and applied light makeup. Her phone kept buzzing. Chuka had sent her 50,000 naira as a birthday gift and was asking if she wanted to go to Enugu that evening. But her mind wasn't fully on Chuka. She kept looking at the time. The sun was rising high, and she knew Jida would be waiting under the mango tree, just as he wrote. "Are you still going to meet that shopkeeper?" Chioma asked when she saw Ada looking outside. "I don't know," Ada replied. "Let me help you think. Don't go." Ada bit her lip. Finally, she stood up. She needed to hear what Jida had to say. Even if she wasn't.
Jida's hands trembled slightly as he held out the bracelet. He had imagined this moment for weeks. In his mind, it had played out beautifully. Ada would smile, maybe even cry. She would whisper yes, and he would place the handmade bracelet on her wrist, a sign of something real and pure. But standing there under the wide mango tree, everything began to fall apart. Ada didn't smile. She stared at the bracelet as if it was something strange, something laughable. And then she laughed. It started as a short chuckle, but it grew louder. Her laughter bounced off the branches above, spreading across the quiet space like wildfire. Jida froze. Ada placed a hand on her hip, still laughing. "Wait," she said, looking at him like he was a joke. "This is the gift?" She pointed at the bracelet like it was some broken toy. "You called me all the way here for this?" Jida said nothing. He still held the bracelet in both hands, gently, like it was something precious. Ada stepped back and shook her head. "You?" she said, raising her voice. "A provision seller wants to date me? Is this a village prank?" From behind a tree, soft giggles began to rise. Two of Ada's friends, Chioma and Blessing, had followed her secretly just to see what Jida would do. Now they came out, covering their mouths and laughing as well. "I told you," Chioma said, "he's not serious." "Look at the bracelet," Blessing added. "Is this what rich men give?" Ada folded her arms. "Jide, let me be honest with you. You're nice, but I can't marry someone who doesn't even own a bicycle." The words hit Jida like stones. Still, he didn't shout, he didn't cry. He just lowered his hand slowly and looked at her. "I made it for you," he said softly, "with my mother's beads." Ada rolled her eyes. "So you want to use pity to win me? My friend, keep your family stories." Chioma laughed again. "Next time, use your energy to restock your shop." The girls turned to leave. Jida remained standing under the tree, his heart quiet but heavy. As they walked away, Ada turned back one last time. "You better aim lower next time, Jida," she said, her voice sharp. "Stay where you belong." Then she walked off, her heels tapping the dirt road. Jida stood alone for a long time. The sun was beginning to set.
Birds chirped softly above, but even nature seemed distant. He slowly closed the box with the bracelet and placed it back in his pocket. Then he walked back toward his shop. That night, he didn't open his notebook. He didn't listen to the radio like he used to. He sat in the small back room behind the shop and stared at the wall. He had done everything with honesty. He had loved her gently, with patience, but none of it mattered, because in her eyes, he was nothing. The next morning in Amori was filled with gossip. The news had spread fast. People whispered in corners. "Did you hear what happened at the mango tree?" She laughed at him, right in his face. Ah, poor Jeed. That girl shamed him for the whole village. Some people felt bad. Others said he had brought it on himself. "Which poor man goes to propose to a girl like Ada?" one woman asked at the market. "She's classy. She wants a rich husband, not a shopkeeper." But Jida said nothing. He went about his work like always, sweeping the shop floor, arranging bread on the shelf, smiling politely at customers. Only a few could tell that something inside him had changed. There was no more sparkle in his eyes, no more laugh. Meanwhile, Ada wore her best dress and went about proudly. Chuka had promised to take her to Anuga that weekend. He had sent her a new pair of slippers and even hinted at buying her a phone. To her, Jida was a closed chapter. Just a poor boy with a big dream and no money to back it up.
3 days after the painful scene under the mango tree, life in Amori seemed normal again, or at least on the surface. Jide had returned to his shop like nothing had happened. He swept the floor, restocked biscuits, and greeted customers as politely as ever. But deep inside, something had gone quiet in him. His smile was still there, but it didn't reach his eyes anymore. Ada hadn't visited the shop since her birthday, not even to greet him, not even to say sorry. She didn't need to. As far as she was concerned, she had moved on. Her attention was now fully on Chuka, the rich suitor from Enugu who wore sunglasses even when the sun wasn't shining. Chuka had taken her to a local hotel in the nearby town for drinks and pepper soup. He had also promised to take her to Lagos soon. Chioma and Blessing were happy for her. "You've escaped village life," Chioma said with a wink. "No more fetching water or walking under the sun." Ada smiled proudly. "That's the plan. Let them laugh. In the end, I'll be the one in AC and fine clothes." But while Ada was busy imagining city life, the village of Amori was about to witness a moment it would never forget. It started on a Wednesday morning. The sky was bright, the weather calm. Women were setting up their market tables, children were on their way to school, and Jide was at his shop, dusting off canned milk tins. Then came the sound. Engines, big ones. A loud rumble echoed through the streets, and within minutes, 4 black SUVs rolled into Amori from the main road. People turned. Traders paused. Okada riders stopped mid-ride. Even Mama Uzo dropped her basket of ugo leaves. The cars were clean, shiny, and tinted. They moved slowly, as if looking for someone. When they reached the village square, the first SUV stopped. The door opened, and a tall man in a black suit stepped out. He wore dark glasses and held a brown folder in his hand. 2 others followed behind him. The man walked straight to a group of elders who had gathered at a bench nearby. "Good morning," he said in a formal voice. "We are looking for Mr. Jide. He owns a small shop around here." The elders looked confused at first. "Jide? Jide the provision boy?" one of them asked. The man nodded. "Yes, sir, that's him." The elder pointed. "His shop is just around the bend. You'll see a red painted signboard." "Thank you, sir," the man replied with a small bow. And off they went, straight to Jide's shop. By now, a crowd had started forming. People were curious. Children were running behind the SUVs, trying to see inside. At the shop, Jide was arranging loaves of bread when he saw them approach. He didn't panic. He simply stood still, waiting.
The men in suits walked up to him. One of them opened the brown folder and handed him a white envelope. "Mr. Jide," the man said with respect, "we regret to inform you that your father, Chief Uchenna, passed away 2 nights ago. As his only son, you are now the legal successor to all his businesses, estates, and private holdings." Gasps erupted from the people standing nearby. "What? Chief Uchenna? That billionaire from Lagos? Wait, Jide is his son?" Jide nodded slowly. He had been expecting this message for days. "Thank you," he said quietly. Another man opened the SUV door and motioned for Jide to enter. But before stepping in, Jide turned to look at his shop one last time. He smiled. That small wooden shop had hidden the truth of who he was for months. It had been his hiding place, his testing ground, his little home of peace. He turned to the crowd and said, "Thank you, Amori, for your kindness." Then he entered the car and the door closed behind him. The SUVs turned around and slowly drove away, leaving behind silence and hundreds of shocked faces. The news spread like wildfire. "Did you hear? Jide is not a shopkeeper, he is a billionaire's son. I heard he owns companies in Lagos and Abuja." Some villagers ran to his shop, only to find it locked. Others stood by the road, still in disbelief. But no one was more stunned than Ada. She had been walking back from the tailor when she saw the convoy pass. Her mouth dropped open when she spotted Jide inside one of the SUVs. "No," she whispered, frozen in place. As the cars drove off, her heart began to race. She grabbed a passerby. "What's happening? Where are they going with him?" The woman looked at her, wide-eyed. "Didn't you hear? That your Jide is a billionaire's only son. His father just died. They've come to take him back to Lagos." Ada stood there, numb.
The news traveled faster than lightning. By the next day, every corner of Amori was buzzing with whispers and wide eyes. "Did you hear? Jide is now the CEO of his father's company. They say he owns over 10 buildings in Lagos. His father left everything to him, cars, estates, even shares in an oil company. Even those who once looked down on him were now praising his name like he was a king. Children ran around chanting, 'Jide the billionaire! Jide the billionaire!' But the person who felt it the most was Ada. She couldn't eat, she couldn't sleep. Her hands shook every time her phone buzzed, hoping, just hoping, it might be a message from him. But it never was. That morning, she wore her neatest wrapper and walked slowly toward Jide's shop. It was locked, just as she feared. A large silver padlock hung on the door, and a brown sheet of paper was stuck to the wood. It read, "Closed. Thank you, Amori." Ada stared at it for a long time. Her eyes began to blur. She turned around and walked back home quickly before anyone could see the tears welling up in her eyes. Later that afternoon, she sat alone in her room, scrolling through her phone. She opened Facebook, then Instagram, then Twitter, and there he was, Jide. But not the Jide she had laughed at under the mango tree. This Jide wore a navy blue suit. He was standing beside a governor, cutting the ribbon to a new office building in Lekki. His smile was calm but powerful. He didn't look like a man who once sold cabin biscuits. There were more photos. Jide shaking hands with bank executives. Jide speaking on stage at a business conference. Jide posing in front of a private jet. And then came the interview. It was a video clip from a business news channel. Ada clicked on it. The host asked, "So, Mr. Jide Uchenna, why did you choose to live in a small village like Amori, away from all this luxury?" Jide answered with a simple smile. "Before taking over my father's company, I wanted to find a woman who would love me for who I am, not for my name or money. So I hid my identity and went to Amori.
I ran a small shop and lived among simple people. It was peaceful and eye-opening." The host laughed. "Did you find what you were looking for?" Jide paused for a moment, then replied, "Not exactly, but I found clarity. That was more important." Ada dropped the phone on her lap. Her throat felt dry. Her chest ached. The tears she had been holding finally rolled down her cheeks. She buried her face in her pillow and cried quietly. In the days that followed, the people of Amori talked more than ever. The same ones who once called Jide a small boy with no future now claimed they had always seen greatness in him. Mama Chinyera said, "That boy used to greet me every morning, so humble." Even Chioma changed her story. "I always told Ada that Jide was different," she said loudly in public, but she didn't listen. Ada heard all of it. She heard the lies, she heard the laughter, and she felt the shame deep in her bones. One evening, she gathered courage and tried calling Jide. Switched off. She tried again the next morning. Still switched off. Then she sent a message. "Jide, I'm so sorry. I didn't know who you truly were. Please, can we talk? Just once. Please." She waited all day. No reply. Desperate, she walked to his old shop again. Still locked. She stood there, staring at the faded red paint. She remembered how he smiled at her the first time they met, how he offered her a sweet for her change, how he helped her mother without asking for thanks, how he sat under the mango tree and offered her a bracelet made with love. And she had laughed in his face. Now there was no more laughter, only regret. What did you learn from this story? Watch out for part 2.